fantasy to me, and I sort of had this idea of this false history, this fictional history of a guitar, this sort of guy. What would a guitar look like by a cowboy who was traveling by stagecoach, or you know, a businessman traveling by stagecoach who wanted a guitar to play, but also didn't want to spare any expense. You see them in gambling.
And that was the case. You know, that was the case. Guitars were delivered by Wells Fargo and Pony Express and by railroad to Boston and Philadelphia and Chicago, and so that's really the heyday of these traditional guitars.
The idea is, and this is a little bit of where the idea came from, so I have to be honest with myself about it. The idea comes from a little bit of, like, you could see someone walking into like the pawn shop on Pawn Stars and saying, I have this Martin guitar, I don't know where it's from. They call in an expert, and the expert comes in and he says, oh yes, this is a 0045 SC. This was actually made by this was actually commissioned by Martin, you know, or commissioned by a very wealthy businessman who at the time was just investing in textiles, and he wanted to spare no expense, and as you see, it's got blue powder all over it, and
kind of like Jimmy Rogers, or Roy Rogers.
Yeah, when it's broken now. No, it's you gotta.
That's what the bindings are for, by the way. The bindings are to protect the guitar from dents.
I think that a signature guitar, which this really isn't because it doesn't have my signature on it, but it's, I sort of signed it more as the designer of the inventor of the idea of the guitar. But a good signature model isn't just a combination of your favorite specs. You can't just say, well, I've always liked this neck, and I've always liked this body, and I've always liked this wood, and I've always liked this bridge, and let's just put them together so I have the best of everything that I want. It doesn't really work that way. This is about finding a sort of center of gravity to a design where everything about it works together with the next thing and everything all at once. And so the neck is true to spec, the slotted headstock is true to spec. You know, there's a few liberties, but for the most part, you pick up the guitar and it's not a hybrid of anything other than being a 0045 with an aesthetic to it, with a design build, you know, a sort of build to it that is really inspiring when you play it. It's really, it's got songs in it that you wouldn't have come up with otherwise, I think.
Yeah, that's what Mark Knopfler said when he got his guitar. He wrote a whole album.
Yeah.
And what an honor to have that happen. Maybe that'll happen with this. He said all he had to do is let the songs out.
Yeah, it's an inspiring thing, and I think, you know, there's only 25 of them, but I think it's going to inspire people to pick up this type of guitar. You know, it's a 12-fret model with no cutaway. I think a lot of guitar players look at a 12-fret model with no cutaway as a very limiting sort of an instrument, and I think in tandem where music is going to a much more, I think it's going to go back, and my bet, I'm certainly putting my chips down on it being a more organic, natural, it's about, it has to, right? It's the next step, it has to, the circle has to come around again. Going back to lyrics and chords and simplicity, but not dumb simplicity, but artful simplicity. I think this is sort of the guitar that turns the tide a little bit, where you don't have to, you don't need a cutaway, you don't need 19 frets of access. You know, the songs are here. The songs for this guitar are right here. That's where they live, you know. And people have been doing just fine with them for many, many years right here. So
this is Adirondack spruce top. Cocobolo, beautiful, beautiful Cocobolo.
Look at that Cocobolo.
A beautiful rosewood from Central America.
We'll start the bidding at 5,000. Also, every guitar we've done together has had some sort of aesthetic to it that hasn't been done before.
Right.
The original OM 28JM had a mother of pearl inlay on the bridge. That I think you had a couple of bridges you had to throw away.
Oh yeah, it was very difficult. He always gives us difficult things to do. Yep. And it had the diver's watch.
Yeah, it had the pilot's triangle, right. And the idea is to get someone who is not a fan, either by way of not digging what I do or just not really knowing what I do, to look at the guitar and go, I still want that guitar. This is not for John Mayer fans. None of my guitars have been expressly for fans of mine. They've been for guitar lovers, and maybe that's part of my evil plan to get everyone to like me.
Well, you know, we do like you, and even though we like you so much, it doesn't mean a hoot to have a guitar with John Mayer's signature in it if the guitar is not
Yeah.
fantastic. And so the challenge here is doing justice to John's level of musicianship,
Thank you.
and to deliver a tool that will yield songs
Yeah.
and produce great music. That's all it's about.
We haven't gotten to the coolest, so with that is sort of the coolest aspect of the guitar. I called Dick and I said, Dick, you know how the mother of pearl goes around, would you call that the rosette?
The rosette?
The rosette? You know how the rosette always stops at the neck? And I later found out it actually does go on, but it goes on underneath the neck. They actually lay in the whole circle, but then put the neck over it. I said, what if it kept going? And the only way, and that's what's great about Dick, the only way to find out if it works or not is to do it. And it worked, and it's gorgeous, and I don't know if you can see from there, I think you can, that the mother of pearl goes all the way through the neck to make a complete circle, which I think is
well, and this was not an easy cool thing to do either. In order to do this, the neck has to be, the dovetail and everything has to be fit perfectly in place, glued, and actually the guitar has to be finished without the last couple of frets going in. And then by hand, you have to match up the arc, the radius, which is actually a slightly different radius than the actual rosette. I bet you didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
It's a slightly different radius because of the arch or curvature of the fingerboard. And so this was the first one we did was kind of excruciating, and now we're getting better at it, and it's being done individually by hand by one person. So
this is beyond a signature model. I think this goes into special order.
Yeah.
This is like, there's only 25, and it's not supposed to be fully accessible. That's what's great, is that, you know, for someone who doesn't have the access or the funds, there's still a guitar out there for them. But this is really about a collector's mindset. This is about an artisan mindset, and it's really it's almost like a special order, but in a quantity of 25. You know?
25 very special people. Actually 23 because John's getting 2 of them.
One to play, one to store. That's my rule.
Well, I know that it's just a box with a neck on it and some wire attached to it until you actually play it. Do you think it...
yeah, if you want to bring the microphone down. Yeah. Want to do it like that? How's that work? So really what it is it's almost an idea that I have, a guitar that fulfills a need, and then sharing some of that with collectors also, and sort of building a few other copies of them, so people, you know, because I do feel like the guys who work at Martin build those guitars are artisans, and I know that it's a tough world out there right now in terms of economy and people not getting what they're due, but when it comes, you know, even in the 20s, there were still people who built very ornate, beautiful things, because that's what artists do. And so this guitar represents that dedication at all times to furthering artistry and what happens and how someone, you know, develops their craft. And where the music is going now, where my music is going now, is really supported by this guitar, which is to be a bit less on the fiery guitar side, just for now, and a bit more into the organic, authentic, this is kind of a cowboy guitar, you know? And what would the cowboy guitar songs be in 2012, you know? And I want to find out what that is. What would it sound like if I wrote a whole record under the stars on this guitar, you know? And that's kind of where the inspiration comes from.
Are you gonna yodel?
I will figure that out once my voice completely heals up. You know, that's, we all go around in circles. We get into something, we go all the way into it, blow it up, and then leave it. And get into the last thing that we blew up and left, and keep going around in a circle. And for right now, it's just... And that would have been boring to me 5 years ago. I had something else in mind, and that's what's great about being an artist. And now it's just... That doesn't feel boring to me anymore. When 5 years ago I would have been like, can I go? I'm thinking, that kind of makes me happy now, and this is a guitar to do it. Yeah, so, yeah, get these out of my face now. But, yeah,
what a treat! What a treat to have you.
You're a gentleman, and a good friend, a really good friend. And I just want to say again that Dick represents